We are ready to proceed with your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Erica Stefanko.
And then Mrs. Stefanko, if you could just turn around and raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Please state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Erica Stefanko, Stefanko.
How are you today?
Okay.
You nervous?
Yeah.
Erica, where were you born?
Georgia,
Where in Georgia?
Fort Oglethorpe.
Okay, how long did you live there?
About 3 years.
Okay. Who are your parents?
Joel Hendrick and Jack Lyon.
Okay. When did you move from Georgia?
I was about 3.
And where did you guys move to?
Cortland, Ohio.
Okay. How long did you live there?
Another 3 years.
Okay. Then where'd you go?
Stowe, Ohio.
Okay. How long were you there?
6 years.
Okay. So did you guys move around a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you go after Stowe?
Key West,
Okay. How long were you there?
3 years.
Okay. Are you in high school yet at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
I started high school at Key West High,
Okay. And where'd you finish high school?
East Chapel Hill High.
In North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go to college after high school?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. What'd you do between high school and when you went to college?
Tried to figure out what I was about to do with my life.
Okay. Did you have jobs?
Yeah, off and on.
Okay. Like what kind of work?
I did some administrative. I waited tables a lot.
Okay. When you entered college, ultimately, where did you end up?
University of Akron.
Okay. And what did you study there?
Psychology.
Did you get a degree?
Yes.
And what did you do after you graduated from Akron U?
At that point, I started working for Chad's company.
Okay. So is it fair then to say that you met Chad Cobb when you were in college?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what year you were?
I was close to being done. I would say I was approximately a junior.
Okay. We'll get back to Chad. What did your parents do when you were growing up?
For work,
Yeah.
my dad worked for Goodyear, and my mom was a nutritionist and eventually became an RN.
Okay. Did they stay together? Did they split up? Is your dad alive now?
Yeah, my dad's still alive.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was like 11.
Okay. And did you live with your mom at that point?
Yes.
Okay. After you met Chad and you graduated from college, you said that you worked for Cobb Cable Company, correct?
Yes.
What did you do for that company?
I wore a lot of hats. So anything from like HR to marketing to anything but field work.
Okay. The office stuff, the administrative stuff,
Yes.
paperwork, licensing, accounting, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go back to school at some point?
Yes, I did.
And where did you go?
Malone University.
And what were you studying at Malone?
Business.
Okay. And did you get a degree or degrees as a result of that study?
Yeah, I got my MBA.
Okay. What caused you to go that route?
I was working in HR at the time, and the company that I was working for had like a we'll pay your tuition type thing. And it seemed like for advancement and managerial positions that I would need to have a master's. So I went ahead and took advantage of that.
Okay. Before you met Chad, were you ever married?
Yes,
How many times?
once.
Once? And who were you married to?
His name is Gus Mueller.
Okay. Did you have any kids with Mr. Mueller?
No.
Okay. About what year was that you were married to him?
2000,
Okay. And how long were you married?
about 3 years.
Okay. And did you guys get divorced?
Yeah,
And you were never married again until Chad and then Mike, correct?
correct.
Okay. Did you have any children of your own when you met Chad Cobb?
Yes,
How many?
1.
Okay. And who's that?
Alexander Stefanko.
Okay. And is that the young man that we heard that Mike has now adopted?
Yes.
Okay. And he was your son that you had with whom?
Michael Bookwald.
Okay. And you were never married to Michael, correct?
No.
Okay. But you guys had a kid, and what year was that?
Alexander was born in 2005.
Okay. It's to be assumed that you split up with that man, correct?
Yeah.
And is it fair to say that you had custody of Alexander?
Yes.
And I guess is Alexander's father in the picture?
No,
Okay. Where is he, if you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Was that ever an issue? Was there a battle there, or?
Not really. Our split was not amicable.
Okay.
And he just kind of drifted off, and we just really didn't see him.
Okay. After you met Chad, you had how many kids with Chad?
2.
2 kids. And those initials are?
FC and KC.
Okay. And we've heard that Chad had a child with Ashley Biggs named Grace, correct?
Yes.
You knew Grace very well, right?
Yes.
Okay. How did motherhood suit you?
Joy of my life.
Okay. You liked being a mother?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've heard that you've lived in a lot of places, correct?
Yes.
Where do you live right now?
Right now I live in Akron at the Summit County Jail.
Okay. How long have you been living in a jail as we sit here today?
Since November of 2019.
Okay. So is it fair to say you've been in jail now over 4 years?
Yes.
How's that?
Rough.
Tell us about a typical day for you.
Overruled. Go ahead.
You can answer.
It really kind of depends on how they're staffed and how the pod has behaved in terms of how the day goes. We might stay locked up in cells all day. We might come out at 8. There's not really a lot to do or places to go. Try to play cards and keep your nose clean and stay out of trouble.
Okay. Can you tell us about what a typical visitation with a family member would be like?
So they don't have in-person visits, they only have video visits. And the technology is kind of wonky, so it can be really stressful to try to have one. They're like 20 minutes, and I think you're allowed to have 1, maybe 2 a week.
So you're able to have 1 to 2 20-minute video visits per week, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Who are some of the people that you have those visits with?
I really haven't had any in quite a while, just because it is so stressful and emotional, just even trying to get up there, to the video visit, and hopefully they call you and you're not locked up and they let you out, and it's a lot. So prior to that, my family, my kids, my husband, my mom, my best friend have visited.
Okay. We heard from your husband, Mike, this morning, correct?
Yes.
Are you surprised he's still with you?
No.
Why not?
Because he's the best man I know.
Would you agree that it would be unusual for someone in his situation to stick with you?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about him?
I don't deserve him. He's my soulmate, and He's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful father.
Okay. Would it be fair to say it's been a tumultuous relationship, how it started and what happened after that?
Yes.
Okay. And we heard, and it's fair game, this started out of wedlock, right?
Yes.
Were you married to Chad Cobb when you started getting with Michael Stefanko?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
I know it was very hurtful to Chad, and I would take that back if I could, but I wouldn't change the outcome.
Okay. When you start getting with Mike, you guys both worked at Chad, or I always do that, Cobb Cable Company, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When Chad gets arrested, what happens to that company?
Ultimately, it wasn't viable anymore.
Okay. So is it fair to say that you and now Mike are unemployed?
Correct.
We heard that Mike got a job. Did you get a job?
Ultimately, yes.
Okay. Where?
Man-can staffing.
Okay. Let's go back to Chad. When did you two meet?
The last day of 2006.
Okay. A New Year's Eve party or something?
No, he invited me to one, but no, it just happened to be on New Year's Eve.
Okay. And that was in 2006?
Yes.
And tell us kind of where it went from there. How long did you date before you had a child?
A couple years before we had Faith.
Okay.
I mean, FC, sorry.
Okay. Did he have his business up and running when you met him?
So he was working like as an independent contractor, but he didn't have like equipment, trucks, employees, none of that.
Okay. And you said that FC was born in 2008, correct?
2009.
Or excuse me, 2009. When you met Chad, did he have any prior children from a prior relationship?
He had Grace and maybe JW.
Okay. So we heard about a child that he
Yeah.
might have, correct?
Yeah.
Did you ever meet that child?
No.
Okay. But was Grace in his life?
Yes.
How so?
He was raising her by himself.
How did you feel about that?
It was one of the things that attracted me to him.
Okay.
He seemed stable and responsible and very devoted to her.
Is it possible that you felt that way because you were raising your son by yourself?
I think I was looking for someone with a similar mindset, yes.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that maybe he wouldn't be scared off by the fact that you had a son?
Right.
Had you run into that previously?
Not necessarily, more just people who really weren't up to the task, of being a parent.
Sure. They might not know what it entails.
Right.
Okay. Did Chad have sole custody of Grace when you met him?
When I met him, he was trying to get custody. I think that Ashley had sole custody at that point. After we'd been together for about 3 months was when she gave custody up to him.
When you met Chad and you said he was trying to get custody, did he have a lawyer?
I believe so.
Okay. If was he going to court?
I think he had filed, but there really weren't any court hearings to my knowledge.
Okay. Did you find him to be a good dad to Grace?
Yes.
Okay. As far as you know, he loved her.
Yes.
Okay. So in 2009, you have FC, correct?
Correct.
And when do you have your next child with Chad?
2012.
Okay. So prior to your youngest child with Chad being born, is it fair to say that in your household would have been Grace, Alexander, and Elsie? Like in 2000 and
Grace, Alexander, and FC?
FC,
Yes,
excuse me,
yes.
FC.
Yes.
And Elsie was 2012.
LS was
Or
20.
L?
Okay, so Casey was my last child, my youngest child with Chad.
Gotcha.
He was born in 2012.
Okay, all right. So you guys are all living together. There's 3 kids. Do you get married at some point?
Yes.
Okay. And we heard testimony, you just tell me if this is correct, that you guys got married on the front porch and no family or friends were there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How would you describe Chad as like running the family?
He was in charge. Kind of like a general with his troops, I guess.
Okay. Did you have a problem with that at the time?
I mean, not necessarily, except his methods were a problem for me.
Okay. What were the methods?
He's just he was very focused on discipline, and he was violent.
Okay. I don't want to get too much into it, but was he abusive to the children?
Yes.
Was he abusive to you?
Yes.
We heard a story about a horrible story about a dog getting shot. Were you there for that?
I was there in the very aftermath of it. I was like in the house when it was going on.
Okay. How did that incident make you feel?
Horrible. Our child was outside with the dog. He could have hit him. Why would you do that to an animal?
Okay.
And he was not good with animals.
Okay. And is it your understanding that that dog got taken to where Cindy Cobb works?
I don't think he actually took Dozer to the vet. I think he just took him straight to Cindy.
Okay. And then did Dozer live with Mike later until he died?
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you met Cindy Cobb?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What were your impressions of Cindy Cobb?
She was intimidating, not very friendly.
Did you feel good enough for Chad?
I always felt like I needed to prove myself to his family and to him.
Okay. How about Jay? How did he treat you?
Jay's most of the time a pretty laid back guy.
Okay. Did you ever have arguments or disagreements with Cindy Cobb?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. When you met Grace the first time, Grace Cobb the first time, how old would she have been?
A year and a half.
Okay. What was your relationship like with her?
So all of a sudden it was like I had twins. She and Alexander are about the same age. And she's like a super cheerful, sunshiny little kid. She's just always like happy for people. So we bonded really fast.
Okay. You lived with her up until 2012, correct?
Correct.
So how old would she have been in 2012?
7?
7? Between when you met her and she's a year and a half and, after you moved in, did she call you mom?
Yes.
Okay. Did you consider her your daughter?
Yes.
Did you consider yourself as her mom?
Yes.
Chad had 3 children, correct? 3, possibly 4, but he had 3 children, correct?
Correct.
If you had to name one as his favorite, who would it be?
Grace.
Okay. Why do you say that?
He singled her out for special activities. He was the least harsh with her on discipline.
Could it be because that was his first child, acknowledged child?
Yeah.
Could it be that there was just those 2 for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What was Grace's relationship with her great grandmother?
They were super close.
Okay. What about Grace's relationship with Jay and Cindy?
Cindy didn't really like kids, so they didn't spend a whole lot of time with her, but I think they were really proud to have a grandchild.
Okay. We've heard testimony that you were abusive towards Grace. You remember sitting here and listening to that?
Yes.
There's a story out there about dog poop. Can you explain to the jury what is happening there?
So it wasn't dog poop, it was meatloaf. She was probably 4.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you speak in the microphone? It wasn't dog poop, it was?
Meatloaf.
Okay, meatloaf.
And she was just having a rough day. She was probably 4. And it was dinner time, and she was kind of throwing a tantrum like, I'm not eating this. This is dog poop. And I said, yes, it is dog poop, and you're still going to eat it.
Okay, well, what does that have to do with blueberry yogurt?
Nothing.
Okay. Do you know how she believes that it was in blueberry yogurt?
The only thing I can think of is that she's sort of mixing that incident up with when she was on like an antibiotic of some kind, and it was in a pill and she couldn't take it, so we split it open and put it in yogurt, and she absolutely was like traumatized by it. It turned out that it had tasted really disgusting.
Okay,
Like she flipped out.
okay. Did you feed Grace Cobb dog feces?
No.
How does it make you feel that she, to this day, believes that you did?
It breaks my heart.
Okay. Did you ever meet Ashley Biggs?
Yes.
When did you meet her?
Early, and she and Chad's, not relationship, but when she was still around after Chad and I got together, she would come get Grace occasionally. Okay. So it was kind of like pick up, drop off.
So prior to her not being in the picture for a couple of years, mm-hmm. maybe more, there would be some visitation handoffs.
Yes.
And you'd see her then?
Yes.
How did it make you feel when she left for that long period of time?
I don't think I really felt any way about it.
Okay.
She was really inconsistent to begin with, so it wasn't like Grace really noticed.
Okay. What effect did you notice that it had on Chad when she stopped showing up?
Chad kind of forced her to stop showing up.
Okay, how so?
He got angry with her for something that she had said, and started ignoring her calls when she would ask to get Grace.
Okay. Do you remember the day that Chad went to go pick up Grace from the Catholic school and she wasn't there?
Yes.
So you remember that CPO action?
Yes.
What did you think about that method for getting Grace?
I thought it was pretty unfair to Grace. She just kind of got yanked out of school, and here's this stranger that she doesn't recognize, and all of a sudden she's supposed to go with them. I think that was pretty traumatic.
Is it your understanding that that CPO that she filed against Chad alleged some sort of abuse, correct?
Yes.
Did it seem even possible that he could have abused her, seeing as she wasn't around?
No.
Okay. What was Chad's reaction to that whole situation?
He was shocked. I would say he was devastated.
If you know, what effect did it have on Cindy and great grandma and Jay?
I mean, about the same.
Okay. Up to that point, they were spending a lot of time with Grace, right?
Sure.
Okay. At this time, the Cobb Cable Company and your family are that situation aside, are doing well, right?
Yes.
Do you come from money?
I mean, no, like middle class.
Okay. Did Chad come from money?
No.
Okay. And you guys were making money, right?
Yes.
Lincoln Navigator, right?
Yes.
You got the house and four-wheelers and vacations and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that maybe you felt a sense of entitlement?
You could say that.
Would it be fair to say that you and Chad felt a sense of entitlement towards Grace because you were raising her?
That's fair.
Now, this custody battle got very contentious. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Were there, like, did Chad hire a lawyer?
Yes.
Did he meet with lawyer or lawyers?
Yes.
Okay. Were there court hearings?
Yes.
Were there a lot of filings back and forth?
Yes.
Okay. Did you meet with the lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go to all the court hearings?
They wouldn't usually let me in the courtroom. I know in one instance I just had to wait out in the car,
Okay.
but I would, be there to support.
Okay. Because this was Chad and Ashley's kid, right?
Right.
I know you considered yourself her mother, but biologically, that's who the battle is between at that point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Was that a stressful time?
Yes.
Do you know anything about a GPS tracker?
Yes.
What do you know about that?
Chad had Cindy purchase it for him so he could put it on Ashley's car.
Okay, so you're saying Chad Cobb had Cindy Cobb purchase it
Yes.
and to put it on Ashley's car?
Correct.
Why wouldn't Chad purchase it?
He didn't want it to come back on him
How could it come back on him?
if she found it.
If Ashley found it,
Correct.
do you think that then they could look to see who purchased it?
That was his thought, yes.
Okay. Was Chad careful with things like that?
Usually.
Okay. What role did you have in that GPS tracker?
None other than I knew about it.
You knew about it. Did you tell him don't do that?
No.
Okay. Was that tracker ultimately discovered?
Yes.
Okay. Did that then come out into the custody battle in court?
I don't think it had.
Okay. Why was the GPS tracker purchased?
So that Chad could know where Ashley was working.
Okay. And why is that important?
Because he wants to get her in trouble so that she loses Grace.
Okay. We heard testimony about the police being called back and forth. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember that happening?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that about?
Beth Judge had.
Is that your attorney?
That was the attorney.
Chad's
for
attorney?
custody, yeah.
Excuse me? Go ahead.
Had indicated that that was a good idea for well checks, especially in the beginning. For one thing, to make sure that Grace was okay, but also that it would be legally that it was a strategy, I guess.
Okay. And would that be in the hopes that there'd be some problem there that the cops would see?
Right.
Drugs out or something like that?
Right.
Okay. Did that ever happen?
Nothing ever came of those.
Okay. On either side?
On either side.
Okay. But it was a custody strategy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Chad, and by extension you, are learning about ways to try to get custody back?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what led to the drug planting in the car.
Yes.
You sat here for testimony that there was marijuana planted in Brittany Dunson's vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And that you made that call to call the cops to search that car, correct?
Yes.
Did you make that call?
Yes.
Where did it was a bag of marijuana, correct?
Yes.
Where did the marijuana come from?
I know now that it came from Mike.
Okay. You didn't know that at the time? Did Chad put it in the car?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Did you put it in the car?
No.
Okay. But you didn't see him put it in the car, correct? You're just making an assumption, right?
Correct.
Whose plan was that?
Chad's.
And did he tell you about it?
Yes.
And did you tell him that's a bad idea?
I suggested that it was a bad idea, but ultimately I let it go.
Okay. You let it go to the point where you participated in this plan, right?
Yes.
Do you realize that what you did there, just your part, is a crime?
Yes.
You know that now?
I do know that.
Did the GPS tracker have anything to do with that drug planting scheme?
I don't think so. I don't think they had the tracker at that point.
Okay, so the drug planting would have predated the GPS, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. If you know, had Chad made prior attempts to get drugs into either Brittany or Ashley's car before he ultimately got them in there?
Prior to when I called at the school?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did he know that Brittany Dunson's car didn't lock?
I don't know.
Okay. And so is it fair to say that your role in that plan was to call the police,
Yes.
to make the call, right?
Yes.
And lie to the cops, right?
Yes.
Okay. What did you say to the cops?
That I had seen, I can't remember who was driving, but the driver of the vehicle with a joint in her hand sticking out the window.
You said a joint?
A joint.
Okay. And what happened after that?
The police came down to the school. They searched Brittany's car, and they did not find the drugs.
Okay. What did you think about that?
I was surprised.
Okay. So then what'd you do?
At that time, I think I just went home.
Okay. Does that car get searched again?
Apparently, yes. I wasn't aware of it at the time.
Okay. And what happened?
I guess they did find the drugs at that point.
Okay. And did Brittany Dunson get charged with possession of marijuana?
No.
Did Ashley Biggs get charged with possession of marijuana?
No.
Did you and Chad get charged with anything related to this?
No.
So nobody gets charged.
Right.
What was the purpose, the end goal of that plan?
The idea being that if Ashley was putting Grace in harm's way by doing illegal things, that it would give us some legal grounds to get her back.
So is it your testimony here today that the purpose of the drug planting scheme was to help get Grace back?
Yes.
Okay. And did that plan work?
No.
Okay. And we heard about there's actual police report and an investigation done into this drug planting. So did that make you nervous?
I didn't really know that there had been a police report, but getting involved with the police getting involved with the police like that did make me nervous.
Okay. Was Chad upset that it failed?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because he was angry. I mean, he expressed his anger.
Okay. Did it make the custody battle even more contentious at that point?
I think so.
Okay. Did you ever get an indication from Jay and Cindy Cobb about their thoughts on the custody battle?
Yes.
And what were those thoughts?
They were extremely upset that things weren't being resolved. They didn't think that Ashley was fit to be a mother. And they really wanted Chad to take more action. They didn't understand why this was taking so long. Questioned him a lot about it.
Was there talk of maybe getting a different lawyer?
Yeah, we actually went and met with one.
Would that be, in your mind or Chad's mind, like a more aggressive lawyer?
Yeah, somebody maybe with more experience in that particular area.
Were there things that Chad wanted filed that weren't filed?
I don't know about that. He used to write like basically novels to Beth Judge, like this is going on and this is going on and do something about it. And I think, I guess it's fair to say that there were things that he wanted filed that were not.
Lawyers love that from their clients. Okay, so is it fair to say that Chad was invested in this case?
Very.
What kind of toll was it taking on Chad as it was not going the way you guys wanted it to go?
He became progressively more frustrated, progressively more angry, progressively more obsessed.
We heard testimony and we heard your voice on that tape.
Mm-hmm.
And just by the way, is that your voice on that tape?
Yes.
Did you have that conversation with Cindy Cobb?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll get to that in a few minutes. We heard your voice on that tape talking about, it was in the context of the custody thing, it was talking about a tipping point for
Mm-hmm.
Chad. What was that about?
I think I'm referring to a little bit of back and forth with the guardian ad litem. So the guardian ad litem had met with both of us, both parties.
Explain to the jury what the guardian ad litem's role is in the custody case. Sorry.
Sure. So she's like an independent person who the court brings on to look out for the interests of the child, who can be involved in, hearing both sides and kind of in real time and seeing, what's going on with the kid.
And sometimes that person's an attorney, right?
Yes.
Was the guardian ad litem in Grace's case an attorney? Do you know?
I believe so.
Okay, that's fine. So you're talking about a tipping point. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And she said something like she didn't know who to believe. I think she said that to Beth Judge. And Chad's reaction was like cataclysmic. He was like, what am I supposed to do here? We've taken all the legal actions, we've gone all the avenues that we can, and still here we are in this position where we're no closer to getting Grace back.
Do you think, strike that, was the drug planning scheme maybe a reaction to that frustration?
I would say so, yes.
You said cataclysmic, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever have times where he just wanted to give up and to say to hell with it?
Yeah, so he would kind of go back and forth sometimes. He would be, really obsessed, writing this big email to Beth Judge about, why don't you address this, this, and this? And then, he'd turn around and be really despondent and be like, well, I guess I can't be Grace's dad. I'll terminate my parental rights, which I guess you can't actually do. But he didn't know that at the time.
Okay. So is it fair to say it was taking quite a toll on him?
Yes.
Okay. But did he give up?
No.
Okay. He kept going with it?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, was a plan of a second drug planting discussed?
Yes.
And what was that?
Because the marijuana didn't work, Chad felt that something stronger and potentially some paraphernalia would have a better success, that it would work.
So what was Chad's plan?
He was going to get a hold of some meth from, I guess, somebody that he went to high school with, sold it.
You said meth?
Yes.
Methamphetamine?
Yes.
Okay.
And that he was going to place that in Ashley's car, and then that we would either call the police or somebody in authority to get the police there so they would find the drugs.
What would be the purpose of that plan?
So that Ashley would be arrested, and so that we could go to court and say, look, she's been arrested for drug trafficking. She's not fit to parent.
So it would help with the custody case?
Yes.
Okay. And was part of the plan, an essential part of the plan, that nobody know it was Chad that had done it, correct?
Yes.
What was your reaction when you heard this plan?
Wary.
Why?
It was highly illegal. It would put heat on us, and it already had not worked once.
So you had tried it once and failed, right?
Right.
So why would you want to do it again?
Right.
Did you talk him out of it?
Ultimately, no.
Okay. Did you discuss, you talked about the legal court plans with the attorney, right?
Yes.
And now you've discussed an illegal second, stronger drug planting plan, correct?
Yes.
Which is illegal, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but that's not talking about it, but what happened, it's illegal, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Aside from those two avenues, did you ever talk about other plans involving Ashley or getting Grace back?
No.
Okay. Did Chad ever offer Ashley money to go away and get Grace back?
That was early on in the custody battle.
Okay. Tell us about that.
So he was trying to get, they had a mediation at one point. He was trying to get to where he could legally sit down with her and have a discussion and say, hey, what's your price to drop this?
Did you learn that could be a solution once you started to speak to the lawyer and get involved in that? Like paying her money to come to some agreement?
Did the attorney suggest it?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. We heard Chad testify that he asked Ashley to go to Luigi's. You remember that?
I do.
If you know, was that to go and discuss that payment?
It could have been.
Okay, so you don't know?
I don't
Fair
know.
enough. I think you do know this, though. Did the payoff plan, did that work?
No.
Okay. So did Ashley and Brittany, did they go away?
No.
Did they agree to shared parenting or anything like that?
Ultimately, no.
So is it your testimony here today that after that and other plans failed, you and Chad started discussing this second, stronger drug planting plan?
Yes.
You said methamphetamine. Do you know why he didn't just try weed again?
I guess because it was stronger, it was more illegal.
Okay. Nobody got charged or anything in the first one, right?
Right.
Was it your hope that maybe somebody would get charged if it's a stronger kind of drug?
That was the idea.
Okay. And you also said meth, but do you know what it was? Specifically?
The only discussion we ever had was that it would be meth, that it would.
What I'm asking is did you get the meth?
Oh, no.
Did you see the drugs?
No.
And do you know the person that they were procured from?
No.
Do you know when he got them?
No.
Okay. Did he ever tell you that he got them?
No.
Okay. And do you know where he kept it?
I don't know where he kept it. When we were talking about it, I told him that he couldn't keep it in the house. Like you're not putting that kind of heat on the house. You're not having that around my kids. So it's going to need to be somewhere else.
So it sounds like you start to grow a conscience at that point, right?
I guess you could say that.
I mean, you're not stopping him from this highly illegal plan, right?
Right?
You're discussing it with him, right?
Right?
Did you have a role in it besides the help talking to him about it?
Yes.
What was your role?
I needed to be the one to alert the authorities once the drugs were in her car.
Okay. And what was the plan in terms of how to get the drugs in there?
Chad was going to do it. He was going to sneak them in there. There are a couple of different iterations of how that could happen. But the main point being that he would be unseen, drop them off, nobody would know that they were in there, and that she would, then she would get caught with them.
And then, well, let's go back then. Was part of the plan that you call and order a pizza out to an address and get her car available?
That's ultimately what ended up happening.
Okay. So is it fair to say that your part of the plan was to make 2 calls, right? Call the pizza place and then call the police?
Yes.
And do you realize that by doing those things, you're committing multiple felonies?
Yes.
Possession of drugs, falsification of a police report, perjury, all manner of crimes, right?
Yes.
Are you committing aggravated murder or murder by doing that?
No.
So in the first drug planting plan, your job was to make a call, right?
Yes.
In the second drug planting plan, your job is to make a call.
Yes.
You're the caller.
Yes.
Did you and Chad have a particular day or time set up to get this plan into motion?
No.
So I guess let's take us back to, or take the jury back to June 20th, 2012. What happened that day?
Where do you want me to start?
I guess start with when this nightmare of a plan and a murder in a day ended up happening. Start there.
Chad had gotten a hold of me and told me to come pick him up at Mitco.
About what time would this have been?
Evening.
Okay. Were you were at home?
Yes.
You had all the kids?
Yes.
How old was your youngest child at that point?
Casey was about 2.5 months.
Were you breastfeeding KC?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking car seats, diapers, breastfeeding, I mean, the whole thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Had you already fed the kids?
Yes.
Was it unusual to get a call like that from Chad, for him to not be home for dinner and then get a call that says, come meet me?
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Why is that normal?
He's always running around doing stuff, working on his truck, what have you.
Do you know what he was doing at his dad's company that day?
I don't.
Okay. Did he call and want you to pick him up to go do this plan, or did you know when you were driving there?
He told me once I actually had him in the car. He said, Ashley's about to get arrested.
Okay. Before we go any further, you've testified that if Ashley gets arrested for let's say possession of meth, it helps that ultimate goal of getting Grace back, correct?
Yes.
Would murdering Ashley Biggs help the custody case?
I don't see how.
How could it,
I mean,
how would it hurt?
Chad would be the immediate suspect. It would be worse.
Was Chad the immediate suspect in this case?
Yes.
Was Chad caught almost right away in this case?
Yes.
Where did Grace go after Chad got caught in this case?
Immediately to foster care, but then with Brittany.
So killing Ashley Biggs actually enabled Grace to stay with Brittany, correct?
Right.
So you go and you pick Chad up at Mitco, correct?
Yes.
And you learn about that Ashley's going to get arrested, correct?
Yes.
So then take the jury through what happens.
Chad drove through Akron, past the Domino's location where she was working.
Hold on. Chad drove?
Chad drove.
Okay. Keep going.
And kind of identified that she was in fact at work. And then he drove down Turkey Foot Lake Road to a small commercial building.
Okay. When you pick Chad up at Mitco, what is he wearing?
He was wearing regular clothes at that point.
Work clothes?
He had his Cobb Cable shirt on and jeans.
Is it that yellow Cobb Cable shirt that we've seen
I
here?
would call it green, but yes.
Or like a high visibility shirt?
Yes.
Okay. And he had jeans?
Yes.
Was he carrying anything?
He had his backpack with him.
What's the color or style of that backpack?
It's camo.
Did he frequently carry that?
Yeah, he carried it kind of like a purse, like a woman would carry a purse.
Okay, but it was a backpack.
Yes.
When you picked him up at Mitco, he was not in full camouflage?
No.
Okay. Did he have a knife or a taser on his belt?
No.
Did he have duct tape and zip ties that you could see that were visible?
No.
Okay. Flashlight, face makeup, all that stuff? He didn't have any of that on him?
None of that.
Is it possible that all of that stuff was in that book bag or that backpack?
Yes.
So you guys drive by Domino's and see her car there, correct?
Yes.
What is the risk that somebody else shows up and delivers that pizza?
I mean, if that were to have happened, he just would have abandoned the plan.
Okay. What if Matt Travis, who we heard from, the manager of Domino's, what if they pulls up and Ashley gets out and Matt Travis is sitting in the front seat? What happens then?
I would assume that the plan would have been scratched.
Okay. So is it your testimony that Chad not being seen or having any confrontation with Ashley is the essential part of this plan?
It's crucial.
Okay. You made mention of some, it sounds like pretty light attempts to talk him out of this. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay. While you guys are in the car and you've got 4 kids, including an infant, does it ever occur to you to talk him out of this felony plan?
I mean, yes.
Why don't you?
I wish I had.
Did you guys have burner phones for this plan?
Yes.
Why is that?
So that if there was any kind of noise from Ashley about, they put these drugs in the car, there would be no affiliation with her work and any phones that we were attached to.
So are you saying that you were afraid that if they tracked the call to Domino's to you or to Chad, it could come up in court and blow the custody?
We wanted no affiliation between us and the situation.
So is it your testimony that it's not only essential that Chad not be seen, but that you guys aren't involved in this scheme at all?
Yes.
Did you guys go to Walmart and get minutes for those phones?
Yes.
And that's that picture we saw?
Yes.
And you're holding the baby, and he's got a little one up on his shoulders?
Yeah, that's FC.
Okay. So that's your testimony, is that it was for that plan, to get those burnt? Did you get phones there, or just the cards?
I think just the cards.
Okay. Who got the phones?
Chad.
Okay. How many phones?
I think just the 2.
Okay. Did you have one?
Yes.
And did he have one?
Yes.
I understand why you'd want to have the burner phone to make the call to Domino's, but why have another phone? Burner phone.
In case we needed to get in touch with each other.
Okay. Is that because you didn't want to use your real cell phones that are attached to your names to be calling each other that night?
Right.
We saw the actual zip ties and pictures of them and things like that. Had you ever seen those zip ties before?
He had zip ties like those on his trucks.
Okay. But did you see those exact ones? Had you ever seen those?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay. You guys had an attached garage,
Yes.
and was there a workshop in there?
Yes.
Whose workshop was that?
Chad's.
Okay. And is that for Cobb Cable Company, kind of?
I mean, a little bit of both. We had some household stuff there too.
Okay. What involvement did you have yourself with zip ties, either small ones or big ones like we saw here?
None.
Okay. Did you have the small ones in the house, like in a junk drawer or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of like you tie a cable up with it, like behind the TV
Yeah.
or something like that?
Kind of like this over here.
Okay. Did you ever deal with the 3 to 4 foot long ones?
I did not know.
Okay. If you saw them stored, how would they be stored when they weren't in use?
Do you mean like where were they stored?
No, how were they stored? Like
I mean,
when,
they're like wrapped up and then held together with another zip tie, like a small one.
okay. So are you saying that they would be stored like spiraled up?
Yes.
Okay. So when you saw them, they were never stored kind of lengthwise
No.
laid out. Okay. And would that be easier to transport then if they're smaller?
Yes.
Okay. Could those fit in a backpack?
Sure.
So I interrupted you, and I apologize, but you go to, Chad is driving and drives past Domino's, okay?
Yes.
Right? Okay. I just want to pick up where you left off. I apologize. You verify that she's there, correct?
Yes.
And then what happens?
He drives to a location on Turkey Foot Lake Road.
Was that 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road that we've heard about?
No.
Where is it?
I'm assuming it was very close by.
Okay. Was it in a business next door or down the street or
Yeah, I'm assuming it was right next door.
Okay. Could you see that building where Ashley was killed?
No.
Okay. At that point, you guys are in that parking lot nearby, correct?
Yes.
Was it walking distance to that parking lot where Ashley got killed?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess to jump ahead a little bit, the plan was you would drop him off, make the call, and then what was your part after that?
I needed to wait for him to call me.
Okay. And at that point, then you've testified that you would call the police and say she's swerving or give some reason to get the car pulled over.
Yes.
Okay. Where were you supposed to be when Chad's planting the drugs?
I was supposed to be still at the location where I had dropped him off.
Okay. Were you ever supposed to take the Navigator to 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
No.
And why not?
I mean, the whole idea was to be invisible.
Is it fair to assume that business could have cameras or something?
Sure.
And if that car is there, that's not a good thing, right?
Right.
So would you ever want to be dropping off or picking him up there?
No.
So you guys are at this business next to the closed business, and what happens?
I'm waiting for a while, longer than I felt I should have been.
Well, let's go back.
Okay.
There was a lot of testimony about a tree,
Oh,
a conversation under a tree. What's that mean to you? Tell us about that.
So right before I made the phone call to Domino's, Chad seems to think that there was some kind of like big discussion and under this tree that was in the parking lot. And he references it later in our relationship quite a bit. He's obsessed with it. Don't you remember the time at the tree and what I said? And I don't really know that aside from the fact that, we were talking about committing felonies, I don't remember what he's referring to. He's like, this was, this is your fault because the time at the tree. And I don't.
At the business next door to where Ashley was killed, did you guys get out of the Navigator and have a conversation?
Yes.
Were there trees around?
I mean, yes.
Okay. So did you in fact make the call, the fateful call to Domino's that night?
Yes, I did.
And did you give a fake name?
Yes, I did.
And did you order a pizza?
Yes.
What was that pizza that you ordered?
I think I just ordered a pepperoni pizza.
Okay. And what name did you give?
Jennifer.
Did you give a last name?
I don't believe so.
So you made that call.
Yes, I did.
When you make that call, what does Chad do?
At that point, that was when he went back into the woods.
What woods?
Kind of behind the commercial building where we were. If you walk backwards, that whole area he walked off behind.
Okay. There's a lake back there, but there's like some wooded areas surrounding that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see him put the camo on and all that stuff?
No.
Okay. When he left you, what was he wearing?
He was still wearing the cob cable shirt, the jeans.
Okay. Did he, when he left your field of vision, and it's dark, it's pretty dark at this point, 11:30 or so, right? PM.
Right.
When he walked away from you, did you see a taser?
No.
Did you see a diving knife?
No.
Did you see 3 to 4 foot long industrial zip ties?
No.
At that point, your job is to wait for a call from Chad, correct?
Yes.
From your position there at that business next to it, is it true? Can you see into that parking lot where she was murdered?
No.
After you make the call and he walks off, what happens after that?
So I waited for the call. It seemed like it was getting to be an awfully long time. But then ultimately, I did get a call from him.
We heard testimony from Matt Travis that he wants that pizza out the door in 12 minutes or something. Best pizza shop manager I've ever seen. He wants to get that thing out there quickly, right?
Yes.
When you say it felt like it was taking a long time, you felt like it wasn't going to take that long to get that pizza out there and to be getting a call from Chad saying, hey, come pick me up, correct?
Yeah.
Where were you going to pick him up?
He was just going to return.
Okay, at that business
Yes.
next to it, okay. About how long do you think elapsed before you get that call from Chad?
Maybe half an hour.
What are the kids doing during all this?
I had a DVD on for him.
Okay. You had some sort of flip down situation? Okay.
Yes.
Was the baby sleeping?
He must have been, or
Okay.
would have been noisy.
So they were either sleeping or watching
Yeah.
a movie? Are these the actions of a good mother at this point?
No,
Are these the actions of a good person?
no.
So you get the call after about a half an hour. And what happens?
He tells me to meet him at his bridge, and he tells me that he has Ashley's car.
What is your reaction when you hear that?
Why do you have Ashley's car? And he's like, just we'll talk about it. Meet me in my bridge. And he disconnected.
Do you know what he means when he says my bridge?
Yeah, so it's a location near his parents' house that he's always, it's like his fort, I guess, that he always went to from the time he was a little kid.
Did he take you to that bridge ever when you guys were dating?
Sure.
You guys would go there, make out, whatever?
I don't want to make out, but yeah.
Okay. You heard testimony that was he and Ashley's bridge. So when he says the bridge, my bridge, you know where he's talking about?
Yes.
Erica, when you get that call, why don't you drive immediately to the police station?
I was scared. I didn't know exactly what was going on.
Do you know she's dead?
No.
Do you have a bad feeling about that, though?
I have a bad feeling. Why does he have her car?
Is there any reason for him to be in her car?
No.
Was the plan that he's never in her car and no one knows he's there, correct?
Yes.
You've got young children in your car.
Yes.
For their sake, you don't take yourself and them to the police station, correct?
Correct.
Could that be because you're involved now?
I mean, I'm sure that was part of it.
Are you thinking to yourself, I made the call?
I mean, I wasn't quite freaking out about it yet. More, I was just like, just the fact that he had her vehicle was.
Okay. Did you ever see her car drive in?
No.
Did you see her car drive out?
No, but I saw it on the way to the bridge.
Okay. So you didn't follow Chad
I
necessarily?
mean, I ended up behind him.
It's kind of a series of one lane, the jury and I did it. It's kind of a series of one lane or two lane roads, correct?
Yes.
So there's kind of one way you'd go, right? Okay. So do you drive to the bridge?
Yes.
You don't drive to the police station, right?
No.
Okay. What happens when you get to the bridge?
At first, Chad wasn't there. I waited for a while, and then I started to really get panicky because he wasn't there.
Did you see any cars around? Would this have been about 1 a.m. at this point?
Yeah.
Ish? So you don't see Chad, you don't see any other cars. What do?
After sitting for a while, I looped back around that whole road to see if he's in any other location nearby. And when I don't see him, I park back near the bridge again.
Did you see headlights or taillights out in a field anywhere?
No.
Okay. Is it possible he had the lights off?
Sure.
So you do a loop around and you're looking for Chad, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you ultimately see him?
Not while I'm driving. Once I get back to the bridge.
Why didn't you call and use the burner phones?
I had thrown it out the window.
So now you're tampering with evidence, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. That's another felony, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why would you throw that phone out the window?
Because I didn't want to be associated with it. It was always the plan to discard it, but at this point, it seemed prudent to go ahead and do that now.
Is it fair to say that you're in trouble at this point?
Yes,
And you don't want to be in trouble?
true.
So when do you see Chad?
Maybe 5 minutes after I had pulled back into the area by the bridge.
So this is after you've done your loop,
Yes.
and instead of doing another loop, you just stay there and say, I'm just going to wait for this guy.
Yes.
Okay. And where do you see him?
He came out of the corn. Like he was crouched and then he stood up, came toward me.
Okay. What was he wearing?
At this point, he had camo pants on.
And what was on his head?
At that point, nothing was on his head.
Okay. What was in his hands?
Well, he had his backpack over his shoulder. Nothing was in his hands.
Okay. As he gets closer to the car, do you notice anything about him?
There's a big patch of what looks like blood on his chest.
And is that high visibility Cobb Cable Company t-shirt we saw?
Yes.
What is Chad's demeanor when he gets up to the car?
He's not himself.
In what way?
He's like shaky, fidgety. He's normally like a really fluid, calm guy, even when he's angry.
Did you find out what the hell happened?
Ultimately, yes.
What happened?
Grounds.
So it'd be, she wasn't present in hearsay.
Response.
That's fine. So you don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened.
You weren't there in that parking lot, right?
True.
You don't know what Chad did.
Right.
What have you learned in being charged with this? Well, your ex-husband being charged, you getting charged, and you sitting through this trial. What did Chad do?
He deployed a taser and
Let's do a sidebar, please.
Erica, do you know what happened in that back parking lot at 647 West Turkey Foot Road? Do you know for a fact, like you were there, if a person was there, what happened back there?
I know for a fact what happened back there.
Okay. Were you back there?
No.
And you learned what happened back there from Chad Cobb, correct?
Yes.
But because of the objection, we can't get into that. So we'll move on.
Okay.
Were you in the back there at 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
No.
Could you see from your vantage point what happened back there?
No.
Was the plan then or at any point to kill Ashley Biggs?
No.
Why not?
Aside from the fact that you don't kill people,
Yes.
it wouldn't have made any sense. I mean, the goal was to get Grace back. And if Chad's being focused on as a murder suspect, then it negates the whole purpose.
When a young woman dies in America, who do the cops look at first?
Her spouse, her partner, baby dad.
Her ex
Yeah.
that is embroiled in a long custody battle?
Yes.
Would it make any sense to kill Ashley Biggs?
No.
Chad comes up to the car and he gets in the passenger seat. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what happens?
He tells me to drive him home.
Okay. Do you drive home?
Yes.
What happens when you get home?
I get the kids out of the car and try to get them settled. I assume that we're staying home. Chad goes in, gets in the shower, and I follow him in there.
Does he go into the house with his clothes that he had on and his bag?
Definitely his clothes.
Okay. Do you know where the bag is at this point?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you ever, before he killed her or after, handle this bag?
That day, no. I don't know if I've ever in my life touched it.
Okay. Did you pack it for him?
No.
Okay. Would you?
No.
You followed him into the bathroom, and did you learn that Ashley was dead?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your reaction to that?
I felt like I had been hit with a ton of bricks.
Okay.
I felt like I was going to be sick.
Were you sick?
Yes.
Okay. What happened?
I just had to sit down and I just scooted over to the toilet and threw up.
Okay. Did you feel like you were going to get charged with murder at that point?
Yes.
Okay. And it took a while, but you did, right?
Yes.
Okay. After he showers, then what happens?
So he left the bathroom while I was being sick. And the next thing I did was get Kai and feed him because he was crying.
Okay. Did you guys leave the house at some point?
Yes.
Why?
Chad said that he needed to get Ashley's phone, that he could fix this.
Did that make any sense to you whatsoever?
None.
Why?
Because he's told me that she's dead. Her car is in this field, and you want to go and get a phone? Like they're, and where? What do you? It didn't make sense.
Did you believe that maybe at that point the cops had been there for an hour?
It definitely didn't seem like a safe place to go.
Okay. Did you order the pizza to 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
Yes.
If Ashley is missing, where's the first place the cops are going to go?
To her last delivery location.
647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
Yes.
Did you resist going back there?
Yes. I tried to stay home with kids. He wasn't having it. He was angry. He was making orders. And it just seemed better to go along and not. I didn't know what he would do if I tried to argue with him.
Okay. Did you drive back to 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road, or did he?
He did.
And you are in the passenger seat,
Yes.
and all four of those kids are still now back into that car, right?
Yes.
Do you drive to or does he drive to 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
He drove past it. But when he drove past it, he saw flashlights. So he kept going.
Who was that, obviously?
That must have been the police.
What was the demeanor in that car when you guys saw the cops in that parking lot?
I mean, I was probably as white as my shirt is right now. Chad was totally panicked.
What was his demeanor?
He beating on the steering wheel. I'm fucked. We're fucked. I don't know what to do. We're fucked. Excuse my language. And then he drove to his grandma's house.
Do you know why you guys ended up there?
I think it was a safe spot for him.
That was his
Wanted to, like-
grandmother's house?
Yeah, he wanted to like try to regroup and figure out what to do.
Did you ever suggest going to the cops?
No.
Okay. Why not?
At this point, I thought that we were both in massive amounts of trouble,
Okay.
and I didn't want to lose my kids.
You did lose your kids though, right?
For a while, yes, I did.
You've lost your freedom, right?
Yes.
When you get to the grandma's house, do you ever get out of the car?
Yes.
Okay. And what'd you do?
We were out of the car talking at one point.
Okay. About how long were you there before Officer Hargett shows up?
I couldn't tell you.
Do you think it was,
It was a while,
okay, more than an hour?
probably.
Okay. What is Chad doing during all of this?
He kept getting in and out of the car, going to use his phone.
Okay. Do you know if he made any calls?
Yes.
Well, you weren't with him when he was driving Ashley's car, correct?
Correct.
So he could have made calls that you are unaware of,
Sure.
including to your current husband?
Sure.
Okay. Do you know who he may have called when he was at his grandma's house?
I know he called his mom, for sure. His parents, for sure.
Did he still have his burner phone?
I don't know.
What phone was he making these calls on?
It was a flip phone. I'm not sure.
Was his normal phone a flip phone?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was his phone that he was using to call
Okay.
his mom.
When you guys were at his grandma's house, did he ever do anything out like on the back of the car?
He was back there for a minute. I don't know what he was doing.
You didn't see him messing with those stick figure things?
I didn't notice him doing that at the time, no.
You had other things on your mind?
Yes.
Okay. What are the kids doing at this point? It's almost morning, right?
Yeah. The two older ones are sleeping. FC is periodically up and crawling around. She seemed to think it was a good time. What are we doing? This is fun. Casey woke up and at least once needed to eat. But
Okay.
Other than that, he was sleeping.
Do you remember Officer Hargett, who we heard from? Do you remember him walking up to the car?
Yes.
Do you remember talking to him?
I don't remember talking to him.
So you don't remember lying to him?
I mean, I don't have a specific memory of it, but I'm sure that his recollection is correct.
Okay. If I told you that in addition to saying, I don't know what's going on, well, let's start there. You knew what was going on, right?
Yes.
Maybe not everything. You don't know what happened back there exactly, but you knew what was going on, right?
Yes.
You tell him, I don't know where Chad is. That's a lie, right?
Yes.
I mean, you didn't know maybe exactly where he was, but you knew he was out in those woods hiding, right?
I knew he had gone that way, yes.
Okay. How did he go? Did he run back there or what?
Yes.
Okay. And you stayed.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember telling Officer Hargett something about Chad came in and said, get in the car and I don't know what we're doing here?
Yes.
Okay. You don't remember telling him, I think my husband killed Ashley Biggs. You didn't tell him that, did you?
I didn't tell him that.
You didn't tell him, I made a call to get Ashley Biggs out there, and now she's dead. You didn't tell him that, right?
Right.
You didn't tell him, I think that her body's in the field by his parents' house. You didn't tell him that.
No.
Why not?
Once again, because I didn't want to lose him or my kids.
Is that something that a good person would do?
No.
They find Chad in the woods. They take you to New Franklin Police Station, right?
Yes.
And are you thinking, well, I'm cooked?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask for a lawyer?
Yes.
Did you get arrested that day?
No. No, I didn't.
Were you surprised?
I guess I was kind of surprised.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you didn't have the plan to kill her, or even Chad did, but she ended up dead, right?
Right.
When you were making this plan with Chad and executing the original plan, was there ever a time in your mind that you thought that Ashley Biggs would die?
Absolutely not.
When you had the first drug planting plan, was there ever a moment during that plan and the execution of it that you thought that Brittany Dunson would die?
No.
Or Ashley Biggs would die in the first one?
No.
Do you take seizure medication?
Yes, I do.
Did you have it with you that night?
I don't remember. Probably.
Okay. If you had a plan to kill Ashley Biggs, would you bring your kids with you?
No.
Would you participate in that plan in the first place?
No.
After Chad gets arrested, did you stand by him?
Yes.
Did you tell the police what happened?
No.
Would that have implicated you?
Yes.
You've got an MBA, but you're not a lawyer, right?
Correct.
You were and maybe still are unaware of the theories of complicity, correct?
I know a little bit more about it than I used to.
Sure. But at that time, you're thinking, I'm done, ag murder, right?
I mean, murder, yeah.
Shortly after, well, at least a few months after this, you get with his best friend, right?
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
I mean, I felt guilty. I was a real hot mess at that point, so.
How so?
Drunk all the time.
Okay.
Not making wise decisions about my drinking. I mean, that was really my life at that point. Before I sobered up and started working, I would just drink all day long. And
Did going to jail sober you up pretty good?
yeah,
Did going to jail humble you?
yes,
Did going to jail expose you to women that had real problems in their lives?
yes,
At some point, after you guys unsuccessfully tried to keep Cobb Cable Company going, you decided to sell stuff off, correct?
yes,
Did some of that equipment have like loans on it, or was it all paid off?
It was all paid off.
Okay. So that stuff had value then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do with the proceeds of those sales?
I saved most of it. It got us through like probably about a year. We were heavily in debt on the mortgage. Chad bought the wrong things. We had a nice new truck, but $3,000 behind in the mortgage. So I tried to pay all that stuff off. Just try to get things back to an even keel. And then I just continued to use it, like even after I had gotten a job, just to make ends meet.
Did you take any of that money and like give it directly to Mike Stefanko?
To Mike, no.
Okay. But he benefited from it too, right?
Yes.
He was living there and got to enjoy all that entails, right?
Sure.
Okay. So you said you were a mess and that you were drinking a lot. Would part of that mess be that you're having free-flowing conversations with people that don't like you?
Yes.
Okay. Did Cindy Cobb like you?
No.
Were you sure that Mary Brinkman liked you or didn't like you?
At that point, I thought she liked me.
Okay. Turns out not so much.
Not so much.
Okay. Were you guilty? Or do you feel guilty?
Like today?
No, back then.
Yes.
Okay. What about?
I wish I had made different decisions to talk Chad out of planting the drugs, to not participate myself.
Okay. But you didn't take any action to kind of address that guilt, did you?
No.
Like you just kept going, right?
I wanted to move on with my life, yes.
Divorced Chad, he's in prison, LWAP, he's never getting out, right?
True.
Just got to keep moving on, right?
Yes.
Keep drinking?
For a long time, yes.
Okay. Did you end up picking up a misdemeanor 4 charge conviction in Wadsworth?
I think it was an M2.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're saying it's higher than what I said.
Yes.
Okay. But a misdemeanor, right?
Yes.
What was that?
I went through the self-checkout at Walmart and didn't scan some of the things that I was walking towards the door with.
What was it?
I don't recall.
Okay. If I told you it was like dog food and stuff?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And you committed that crime?
Yes,
And you pled guilty to it, right?
I did.
And at some point, prior to that, you go and you have a cocktail with Cindy Cobb, right?
Yes.
And unbeknownst to you, she tapes you, right?
Yes.
And this is a woman that you know does not like you, whose son is serving life without parole, and you just open up to her, right?
Basically.
Is that a good idea?
No.
Yeah. Was it instrumental in finding you on the witness stand fighting for your life?
Yes.
Now, the state has played a lot of clips from that tape, and they've asked a lot of questions about clips on that tape. To your recollection, and you've heard some of it and all of that, but just for your recollection, did you ever admit to a plan to kill Ashley Biggs on that?
No.
But you did talk about a plan, right?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, on page 15, you say, the part he executed went totally awry. I did my part, his part went awry. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
What are you referring to in that?
I made the phone call. He was supposed to go put drugs in her car, and obviously that didn't go as planned.
When you made that phone call, to your knowledge, was Chad Cobb armed?
No,
Did he have the zip ties or the knife or anything on him that you were certain? Did you know if he had those on him?
no, I wasn't aware.
Did you have any reason to believe that he would have a confrontation with her?
No,
Did you have any reasonable expectation that he would assault and kill her?
no,
Had you and he ever discussed that?
no,
Would it make sense to kill Ashley Biggs?
no,
On the on the tape, on the transcript, page 17, you discuss with Cindy Cobb, and that is your voice on there, right?
yes,
And in addition to saying all this stuff, you also say some other terrible things, right?
yes.
Were you a good person back then?
I was working on it.
Are you working on it still to this day?
I mean, I think I'm a lot closer.
Well,
think
let's
I'm
just
there.
get right to it. Let's get right to it. You said you're not sad that Ashley's dead.
I did say that.
Explain to the jury how we can now listen to anything you're saying.
I think at the time I really wasn't sad that she was dead, but since then I've heard from her family, I've heard from people that I've been locked up with who have gone through loss, and I've just had time to really think about, to hold myself accountable. And she lost her life, and if I had taken different actions that night, then at a minimum I wouldn't be responsible for it. I wouldn't.
Mike suffered a lot of loss in his life. Unimaginable loss. Has he helped you become a better person?
Yeah.
On page 17 of the transcript related to the tape, you discuss Chad, quote, not turning this situation into something it's not. What are you referring to there?
I mean, he really wanted to exempt himself from any responsibility, and I didn't think that was fair.
Did he want to try to turn the plan for the drug planting into a plan for murder?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did we hear him up on that witness stand ever say there was a plan for murder?
Not that I heard.
Did we hear that his plan was to go to Disney World, right?
Yes.
On page 28 through 29 of the tape, you say, quote, this is what's happened, and you're going to do as I say. That's just his personality. Whose personality?
Chad's.
You continue on page 29, you say, I had no control. If I step out of line, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
He's going to punish me until I comply.
We heard on that tape on pages 54 and 55 that his mom thinks that Chad snapped. You said that you could see him snapping, but that he was generally controlled. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You also say to her that he talked to you in a different way right after it happened. Did that make you think maybe he did snap?
I was of two minds about it. Either he did snap, or he had another explanation as well. And so it was kind of between the two. I have thought that perhaps he did snap.
It wasn't the plan, though, for him to ever even be seen, correct?
Correct.
But at some point, is it your belief that he ended up purposefully murdering Ashley Biggs?
Yes.
You talked to Cindy about, well, Cindy says, I'm thinking it's an anger lash out thing because he can't control, and Chad needs to be in control. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
That Chad gets angry when he can't be in control?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
On the transcript, I'm sorry, that was on page 63. On transcript page 64 of that tape, you say, you're not going to say that I'm responsible for you being in prison, because I'm not. You know, could I have prevented you from being in prison? I agree with that. But am I responsible? Am I the reason that you're in prison? Am I some piece of shit and I diabolically planned for you to be in prison? No. Did you make that statement?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
That whatever led him to kill her has nothing to do with me. That wasn't something that we talked about. That wasn't something I encouraged him to do. He needs to take responsibility for that.
When you talk about in that tape generally, I might have been able to stop him. I could have told him not to do it or whatever. Are you referring to the drug planting plan or some plan that involved assaulting or killing her?
I was talking about the drug planting plan.
When you're talking about that last part on page 64, are you saying that like the drug plan was not executed? Obviously, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you're referring to?
So let me guess.
I mean, no,
ask this. Was the plan to plant drugs the first time or the second time a success?
It was not successful.
Okay. Do you remember in that tape, and this is on transcript page 126, discussing with Cindy about taking out a life insurance policy on yourself?
Yes.
Why? What were you talking about there?
That if it came down to it and I was going to have to spend a significant amount of time in prison, that I'd rather die.
You talk about with Cindy, there's a quote, this is the only way this situation is going to go away. What situation were you talking about there?
The custody battle.
Okay. And how was that situation going to go away?
If Ashley was no longer a fit parent,
Okay.
the court would award us custody.
If Ashley dies, is murdered, does that situation go away?
That situation gets worse.
In fact, Brittany Dunson still ends up with Grace, right?
Yes.
And Chad's in prison. And you're charged with murder, right?
Right.
Towards the end of the conversation with her, page 159, you say, if he had got what was supposed to happen that night, yeah, happened, then it was, he had a perfect plan, but it didn't go the way it was supposed to at all. And why that is, I don't know, because he told it to me two different ways. If the plan was to murder her, then that plan went perfectly, right?
I mean, that's what happened.
If the plan was to plant drugs, that plan failed spectacularly, didn't it?
Yes.
We heard some talk in there about Chad saying things like, kind of ranting and raving about Ashley. I'm going to keep her skull as a trophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did that mean to you? That he was going to have her literal skull up on a mantle?
No. I mean, I thought it was a euphemism. I thought he was being dramatic.
Okay. As it relates to the custody case?
Yes.
Chad didn't like to keep evidence around, right?
I mean, no.
Okay.
Of what?
Crimes.
I mean, no.
Okay. You talk in there with Cindy, if the truth comes out, we'd both be in prison right now. You remember saying that?
Yes.
Can you go to prison for possessing drugs?
I believe so.
Can you go to prison for planting drugs on a person to get an advantage in a custody case?
Yes.
Can you go to prison for making that call to set up, to get the catalyst, to get Ashley out there to get the drugs planted?
Yes.
Can you go to prison for, after you find out that I've got Ashley's car, that you don't call the cops and you in fact go and pick him up?
I think I would. That would be,
You're helping him, right?
Yeah.
Can you go to prison for throwing that phone out the window that you made the call?
probably.
Should a person do some time for that stuff?
Yes.
You talk on that tape about every time I hear a siren, looking over my shoulder, I don't know when that heat's coming down. You remember that?
Yes.
Why?
Why was I always looking over my shoulder?
Yeah, was that because you helped plan and commit a murder?
No.
Is it because you helped plan a drug planting?
Yes.
Did Chad had power over you, right?
Yes.
If he could convince Detective Hitchens that you made that call, that's power, right?
Yes.
If he can convince his mom to secretly tape you, never talking about a murder, but talking about the plan, and can get that to Detective Hitchens, that's power, right?
Yes.
And if he can get Mary Brinkman to say, "Oh yeah, she told me about it too," that's power, right?
Yes.
Did he use that power?
Yes.
Did it work?
In what way?
Are you sitting on
Here.
trial for aggravated murder
Yes.
for making that call?
Yes.
Just like you made that previous call when you guys planted the pot, right?
Yes.
You talked to Chad after he went to prison. You heard him testify. Is it your impression from him he thinks he's getting out?
He's not getting out.
Does he think he's getting out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sustained. Don't
Okay.
answer that.
You've been sitting in jail for over 4 years now, right?
Yes.
In your time in jail, when people provide information to the government, and I'm not saying that the state here has made any agreement, does it typically help that defendant or that incarcerated person get a little consideration?
I can.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
It's your own personal experience, Judge.
Let's do a sidebar, please.
Okay. So we've talked about, and you've admitted here, multiple crimes. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you feel like you're being punished for those crimes right now?
I mean, I've been locked up for 4 years.
Okay.
It's been pretty awful, so.
Do you feel like you've got a lot of atonement to do for things you've done in your life?
Yes.
Do you think that you're saying that you're guilty of a lot of stuff in your life, but that you're not guilty of aggravated murder and murder? Is that correct?
Yes.
And that you'll accept responsibility for your part in this, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that Chad has accepted responsibility for his part?
Objection.
Basis?
What is relevance is why she
Relevance
believes.
is your basis response?
I guess I can ask her if Chad's pled guilty in this case.
That's fair.
Has Chad pled guilty
Yes.
in this case?
Yes.
And part of what he pled guilty to a lot of things, but 2 of the crimes were aggravated murder and murder, correct?
Yes.
Have you pled not guilty to aggravated murder and murder?
Yes.
Is it your belief that you are not guilty
Yes.
of those offenses?
Yes.
Do you feel remorse as we sit here today?
Yes.
For what?
For a lot of things. For my treatment of Grace, for hurting Chad, and primarily for all of the actions I just had to testify about. I feel remorse for those things.
When you went to jail in 2019, that was obviously traumatic for you and your family, correct?
Yes.
In a way, was that maybe what you needed?
I think that it was maybe fair that maybe God sat me down.
Did it give you perspective on your life?
Yes.
Did it make you see people that actually were really suffering?
Yes.
If you were able to get out of jail one day, would it be your intention to try to rebuild your life with Mike?
Yes.
Judge, what's the relevance?
You can answer that. Overruled. Go
I'm
ahead.
talking about your personal life. This is your personal story. Is that what you would want to do?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Judge? I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thanks, Erica.